Hey there, Ajaxer here. I'm going to show you guys what you'll be able to make at the end of this video. So when you hit C, you'll throw out a smoke, and when you hit C and hold it, you'll be able to control it with your mouse. Okay, and eventually it'll open up. Let me actually close this scene so you guys can see better. And then that's pretty much it. When you hold C and let go, it just starts dropping. Something just starts dropping. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy, and yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? So let's get started. So last video we worked on Jett's dash, and we're gonna use that same Jett controller script to work on the smoke. So let's open that up. Alright, so here you can see that we have our handle dash function. I'm just going to make a region, so hash region dashing, and then let's see, go down here, I think, yes, say end region. Okay, now that we did that, we can just collapse this and we can start working on the smoke. So I'm going to make a smoke region, end region. Okay, so for throwing smokes, we need a couple variables in this class to determine what type of action we're taking. So the first one is going to be a public bool is throwing smoke, and then I'm just going to default this to false. Okay, and then we'll need some serialized fields. So serialized field game object smoke projectile, and then serialized field transform smoke firing transform. Okay, and we need some private variables, so let's come down here and say private, or let's say Jett smoke projectile, which we haven't implemented yet. It's going to be a class, so current smoke projectile, and then we will have a private float last time smoke ended equals 0. Okay. So then let's go into our smoke region and start building out some functions. Let's see. Okay, so the first thing, just kind of like we have this handle dash function, I'm gonna do an all-encompassing handle smoke function, and what we're gonna have in here is just capturing the input and then calling functions to do other actions. So let's say bool is trying to throw smoke. We're gonna have a local variable here, input dot get key down. So this just means when they press it down. It doesn't mean when they hold it. It's just pressing. C. I'm just using C. You can use whatever you want. Okay, so then we'll have an if is trying to throw smoke, and time minus last time smoke ended. Oh, let me see. Time less is equal to smoke delay seconds, which is something that we also need to implement. So say private. Actually, did I? Let's see. Private float smoke delay seconds, and I think I set that to 0.3 equals 0.3. Okay, and we actually need to change this to time minus last time smoke ended is greater than or equal to smoke delay seconds. Then we will call a throw smoke function. Okay, oops, a throw smoke function, which we haven't implemented yet. And then we'll create, outside of that if statement, we'll create another one, and we'll say if throwing smoke, or yeah, if is throwing smoke, and then we'll say bool is controlled. So is controlled, so if you know, Jett key code, let's see. Okay, so Jett, when you press the button and release it, she'll throw out her smoke and it'll go in the direction she's facing. If you hold C after you press it, you can move your camera around and the smoke projectile will go wherever you're facing, which is pretty neat. You can put the smoke around corners, put the smoke. So is controlled is what controls, like what tells the game you're trying to control the smoke projectile. Okay, so current smoke projectile, which we haven't implemented, and I'll say set is controlled. This is will just tell the actual game object that it's being controlled. It should start acting like it's being controlled. And bool is stopping control equals input dot get key up. Okay, so also a thing that we have to think about is when you release it, when you're controlling, the projectile just drops. It just stops being controlled and it'll drop, and then or it'll just, you know, expand. So this handles that. So code.c, if is stopping control, and then we'll say an on throwing smoke and oops, yeah. All right, so we need to implement a couple things in this function. So I'll start by implementing this on throwing, or this throw smoke. So let's create that function, throw smoke, and it just sets a couple variables. So is throwing smoke true? I'll do a player weapon. I think I have a reference to the player weapon. Let's see, player weapon, player weapon, player weapon. Let's add a reference to the player weapon on our character. And when you throw smoke, you know, you hide the weapon. So hide. Do I have that? Let's see. Hide gun. I guess I don't have that yet. So set our game object. You know, let's forget about that right now. Okay. And then we'll instantiate a smoke projectile, and it's going to be of our serialized field smoke projectile, smoke firing transform dot position, and then it'll go in the direction of our player camera, which we also need to add a reference to in this. So let's say camera, player camera. Okay, and this is actually going to be a serialized field, I think. Let's see. Yeah. So serialized field, player camera. Okay. So we instantiate the smoke projectile, and we haven't actually made this prefab yet, but I'm going to leave it really simple. And we will then, what I'm doing is I'll say smoke projectile equals, or current smoke projectile equals smoke projectile dot get component Jett smoke projectile. And before we go any further with this, I'm just going to start working on, or let's set up the game object first in Unity, and then let's create this class, and then we'll continue on with this class. So hit save. I'm going to go, actually, let me just create a void on throwing smoke end. Oops. Okay, and then I'll just comment this line now for now, and then comment this line out for now. I don't know how Unity handles and then comment this line as well. Okay, so let's go back into Unity, Valorant tutorial, let it do its thing. All right, now let's okay. So let's open this scene alongside. Okay, and then what I just did is I have a 3D object and it's a sphere, and I'm going to reset the transform. I'll bring it up and to the side, doesn't matter where the position is right now. And I made it pretty small. Let me see the size that I made it. Jett smoke projectile. So there's gonna be two game objects. So a Jett smoke ball, which I did and a Jett smoke projectile. So the Jett smoke projectile, I just put a scale of 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And there is I'll rename the sphere to the Jett smoke projectile. And I will put this, I'll make a prefabs folder actually, prefab. Okay. And I'll put Jett smoke projectile. Okay, now I'll make another 3D object, and it's going to be a sphere, and it'll be a Jett ball, or a smoke ball. Okay, so this is the bigger smoke, this is the actual smoke, and then the smoke projectile is the thing that she sends out from her hand. So the smoke projectile will transform into this ball, and I just had it as 3, 3, 3. I'll just reset it so we can see it in comparison. So it'll be, she sends out this little ball, and then it'll transform into this big ball. Okay. And let's also make that as a prefab, so just drag it in. And then we can just delete these from the scene. Okay, so we have those, and what we need to do now is on the smoke projectile, we need to create a class called Jett smoke projectile. Okay. Oops. Jett smoke projectile. Okay. And then let's wait for it to do its thing. And then let's edit script. Okay. I'll just move this into scripts. Alright, so now that we have this, let's delete these comments. And we'll start off by, we'll need a reference to the game object, which is the ball. So like what this little projectile turns into. We'll need a public bool is controlled, like we talked about earlier. This defines whether we are actually controlling the projectile or not. Private vector 3 starting position. Okay. Private float particle movement speed, how fast we want it. So I set it to 20. Private float max distance. How long until it automatically just like the smoke automatically just expands. Private float distance traveled. We just track how the distance is traveled. Private camera, player camera. Private float downward force. So the ball will always, if the ball is released, like if the ball is not controlled in Valorant, the ball will have a downward floaty force, so it'll just arc down. And I just set it to negative 2.0 F. And then private float downward force increment. Okay, so negative 3.8 F. This is just some math, It's not like any physics formula. It's me messing around with numbers. Okay, so now we have those, and then we'll have in our start, we'll have a starting position equals transform dot position. Okay. All right, so in our update, we can say, let's handle, actually, okay. let's make some of the public functions first. So we'll have beneath our update, I'll say public void initialize values. And here we'll call this when in our Jett controller, this function, when we instantiate the smoke projectile. And what we're pretty much doing is telling the ball if it's controlled. And we're also giving this a reference to our player camera, which is just a camera, and player camera. Okay, so now we have those values. So we'll say is controlled equals is controlled. And we'll also say player camera equals player camera. Okay, and it's really simple. What the player camera does is wherever you're looking, wherever the player camera's rotation is, that's where the smoke projectile goes if we are in an is controlled state. Super simple. It's actually satisfyingly simple. Okay, so next function, and this will be to a setter for is controlled. So set is controlled, bool is controlled, and we'll say is controlled equals to is controlled. Okay, and then we'll have another function called void on create smoke ball, and this creates the big the big ball. Sorry. And then we'll have a vector3 position, and we'll say instantiate a smoke ball. Oops, smoke ball prefab position transform dot rotation. That'll just be the same rotation as our projectile, and then we'll destroy the smaller ball, this dot game object. Okay. Now that we have that, let's start working on this update function and handle the different states the small smoke projectile could be in. So if is controlled, let's focus on is controlled right now. All we have to do is just change the smoke projectile rotation to what our player camera rotation is, and transform dot rotation equals player camera dot transform dot rotation. So now we have is controlled handled, which is, it's just literally one line. And then we'll have we'll start working on movement vector equals, let's just transform dot forward times particle movement speed times time dot delta time. Okay, and this is just the movement of our smoke projectile. So we'll just we're adding a force to the projectile. So if not is controlled, downward force, we'll start applying the downward force. So plus equals downward force increment times time dot delta time. Whoops. Time. And then we'll also say movement vector plus equals transform dot up times downward force times time dot delta time. Okay. Vector3, say vector3 new position. Outside of this is not is control block. We'll say new position equals transform dot position plus equals movement vector. I'm not sure why I did a plus equals here. I'll just say plus. And the distance traveled equals vector3 dot distance starting position new position. Okay, and then if distance traveled, we'll handle if we have hit the max distance. So let's just say that, and then we'll say on create smoke ball. Else transform will move our ball and change the transform according to our vector, and this will be a plus equals right here. Okay, there's a lot of code and we haven't seen anything yet. So this is our smoke projectile script, and we're done with this script. So let's go back into our Jett controller and let's uncomment these things. The things that we commented out, and we'll have current smoke projectile. Where are you? Right here. Let's uncomment this guy. And now these should not have red squigglies. Okay, so let's implement the final items in our Jett controller, and then we should be able to hook things up in Unity and see it work. So let's say throw smoke. So current smoke projectile dot initialize values. Here we're gonna pass in if we are controlling. So is controlled false by default, and then player camera. Okay, and then we'll say no, that's it for our throw smoke function. Also in set is controlled, which I have here. Okay, so on throwing smoke end, which is pretty quick. So last time smoke ended equals time dot time, and then we'll say is throwing smoke false. Current smoke projectile dot set is controlled false, and then current smoke projectile equals null. Okay, let's go back into Unity. I think that's it for our Jett controller script. So let's go back into Unity, and let's go to our smoke projectile first, and we just need a reference to our prefab. So I'm just gonna add that. So whoop. Okay, and then let's go to our Jett controller, which we have on our player. Right? Right? Don't we have a Jett controller on this guy? What the heck? Okay, I guess we have to add a Jett controller. Okay. And then we'll add a reference to our player camera, which we have here. So main camera, player camera, forward dash particle. I thought I did this last video. Maybe I kind of messed it up. But let's see, prefab scene. What the heck? Where did it go? Prefabs. Okay. Well, you guys are in a better state than I am. Let me just focus on the projectile stuff. The dash stuff is fine for now. Smoke projectile. Prefabs, smoke projectile, and then smoke firing transform, which is a thing that we'll have on our player. So create empty, we'll just create an empty game object, and it's wherever you want the smoke to come out of. So I'll just do it there and a little bit to the right. Actually, let me just make a cube or something as reference. And then I'll just say 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And then we'll say so we would want it to come out of like here or something, right? Maybe a little closer, honestly, like right there. And you know, we have the hand animation and stuff like that, so we would hide the gun and put it. But in this tutorial, we'll just focus on the math and programming, not the art necessarily. So okay, that's fine. And then change this to smoke firing point, and let's add that to our Jett controller. So smoke firing transform. Okay, let's hit play. Does this actually work? Let's see. C. So it doesn't work. Let's see. Oh, okay, so we need to call the handle smoke function inside the update. Okay, then we should be seeing something. Hit play again. Okay, so now it goes forward. We see the downward force being applied, and then if we, so if we rotate our camera, it's pretty cool. If we rotate our camera, it'll move with our camera. Okay, and then you see it expands once it gets far. These values that I'm using, like the max distance, it gets expanded. is not that great. Also, we see that it's going through the floor. Let's fix that real quick. We need to do a collision detection on the smoke projectile. So let's go back to our Jett smoke projectile, and we'll see. All we need to do is simple void on collision enter. Okay, on create smoke ball. We'll just create this smoke ball at the context 0 dot point. Okay, that's the only thing that we need for collision. I know in Valorant, like, the smoke comes up a little higher, so I don't think the ground has. I'm assuming none of these have like colliders, but let me see if I can add a collider to this, or let's see. Why is oh, it's because this thing needs a collider. This sphere collider and a rigid body. Okay, so on our prefabs, go to the smoke projectile, and let's add a sphere. All we need to do is just add a rigid body, actually. And then let me see if I edited anything. Use gravity. No. Check use gravity. Okay, I think that's it. And then if we save it and then play again, I think this should collide. Yeah, so now we are colliding. It's pretty cool. Let's go inside of it. Oh, well, I guess we can't. But, you know, we can figure that out. We'll add a script to change that. But for now, this is fine, I think. And it's not, you know, exactly like it, but I just wanted to show you guys the kind of the throwing mechanic, not necessarily like the actual inside of the smoke and stuff like that. But pretty neat, yeah. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you guys wanted to see... Anyways. All right, bye.